Zuriel Adewale, thank you for joining us. You're an 11-year-old girl here in London at the moment. Very busy 11-year-old girl, I gather. You've been named as one of the most 100 influential Africans. You're the founder of the lobby group for African girls' education, Dream Up, Speak Up and Stand Up. How old were you and what gave you the idea to start this?
Well, thank you for having me. And I was 10 years old when I started the Dream Up, Speak Up, Stand Up project. And one of the reasons I started it is because I saw on the news and also from experiences when I visited various African countries like Ethiopia, Ghana, and Nigeria. I see that instead of being in school, there's a lot of girls on the streets selling various projects trying to make money for their families. And I see them and I'm like, they should be in school getting a good education so that way when they get older they'll be able to have good jobs. And so I started this program to inspire all the children in Africa, especially the girls, to stay in school, get a good education, and also to accomplish their dreams.
So how did you actually get it off the ground though? Because you're in LA, you're seeing that this needs to be done. Where did you start?
Well, I started the Dream Up, Speak Up, Stand Up project in Lagos, Nigeria. I started it at the School of Media Communications, and there I gave my first Dream Up, Speak Up, Stand Up speech, and I talked to some of the students from the school as well. And then from there, I've visited 3 other African countries, so in total to 4 African countries: Nigeria, Tanzania, Malawi, and Mauritius. And in total, I've spoken to over 3,000 children about the importance of getting a good education.
So what do you hope to achieve through this? What do you want to achieve?
Well, I'm hoping I'll be able to inspire all the children in Africa and also help all the children in Africa, especially the girls, to have a chance to get an education. And I also want to show the parents of those girls, me as an example, and show what their children can do if they're given a chance to have an education, and also if they're supported by the parents. Because as you may know, UNESCO stated that as of 2011, 57 million children of primary school age and another 69 million children of lower secondary school age were out of school worldwide, and that's a major issue. And many people are also saying that because of this, progress towards the 2015 Millennium Development Goals of universal primary education will not be met. However, I believe that technology can change that. Because if we are able to give the children technology, then they'll have the same access to resources as we would, and also have a better chance to have more options in life, and also have a better job in the future.
So what sort of projects are you doing specifically in each country?
I'm doing 3 projects actually right now. The first, I interview African presidents, and also I create documentaries to help rebrand the African continent. Because usually on the news, whenever they mention Africa, they mostly show all the negative things and never really tend to show the positive things. And because I've been to Africa many times, I see all these positive things. And so I wanted to do something about that issue. And so I interview presidents and prime ministers and create documentaries from that to show the rest of the world that Africa has a lot of positive things to it. And that's the first project, which I started when I was 9. The second project, the Dream Up, Speak Up, Stand Up project, is I started that to inspire all children in Africa, especially girls, to stay in school and get a good education. Now, the third project I started a couple of weeks ago is where I was able to host the First Lady's Colloquy, where I delivered my first policy speech on child education. And I believe that the 3 components to accomplish and make sure that all children in Africa, especially girls, will have a chance to get an education are: 1, the human resources that are willing to teach; 2, the technology we are able to share; and 3, the relevant software to power the combination of all 3. And let me go into a little more detail about that. Now, you may have heard of the Peace Corps Group. It is an establishment that was started in the United States in the 1960s by President John F. Kennedy. And it allows volunteers to travel to various countries around the world and share their knowledge, but specifically to educate the children in developing countries. And so we already have a ready army of volunteers, so that will cover the human resources and army of teachers. Now, the second component, which is the hardware. And many of us have heard of the big computer giants such as HP, Apple, and Lenovo. However, in parts of Africa, it's Xerox and Omatech. Now, these companies have strong CSR programs that would allow us to deliver computers for these educational projects. So that covers the hardware. Now, of course, you have to have the curriculum. And that's where software companies like SoftTribe will be able to develop software that allows distant learning, which is how me and my younger siblings attend school back in the United States. Now, with these three components, along with compassion, dedication, and a serious commitment by our leaders and governments, I believe an impact can be made to increase the literacy of children in Africa, especially the girls in Africa, so that way they'll have more options in life and their futures will be much brighter.
Okay, you mentioned that you've made 2 documentaries. Tell us about both of them, each of them.
Well, the 2 documentaries I created, one was on the Ghana Revolution, and the other was on the formation of the African Union. And I started those documentaries because I had chosen to enter a competition for my school called the National History Day Competition, where students from around the U.S. would come together and present their ideas in documentary form. And for the first year, the topic was revolution, reaction, or former history. And so I wanted to do something on the African continent. And that's when, after a lot of research, I found out that the Ghana Revolution was one of the most successful revolutions held in Africa. And so I, of course, had to have primary sources and secondary sources. So I was doing research, and I found out that Flight Lieutenant Jerry Rawlings had a major role to play in the revolution because he started it. And so I sent letters to his presidential offices, and in about 6 weeks, they came back saying that President Jerry Rawlings would be glad if he came to interview him in Ghana. And so I interviewed President Jerry Rawlings and John Kufuor for the first documentary, The Ghana Revolution. The second one, on the formation of the 1963 Organization of African Unity, I chose to create on that topic because the topic for the second year was turning points in history. And I thought that that was a major turning point in Africa's history. And so I was able to interview 3 current heads of state at that time: President Jakaya Kikwete of Tanzania, President Joyce Banda of Malawi, and President Mkhitaryan Prega of Mauritius. And in that documentary, I talked about the unique stories that their countries had to tell.
And when you interviewed these African leaders, what was that like for you? How did they react to you as a young girl interviewing them?
Well, for me, I was really thrilled that the presidents and prime ministers allowed me time to come interview them, because I know of current heads of state, they don't have that much time in their hands. So I was really thrilled that they allowed me to come interview them. And also, they're always very warm, greeting, and also they treat me like I was their own granddaughter. Like, oh, come here, my child, thank you for coming. And then I just have a great time interviewing presidents and prime ministers.
And what would be your message to those African leaders as regards young girls and education?
Well, the message is that I'm hoping that all children in those African countries would be able to have a chance to get an education, especially the girls. And I'm hoping that the prime ministers and presidents will be able to create policies allowing this to happen.
Okay. You're Nigerian, and at the moment one of the stories is about the girls that have gone missing from the school in northeast Nigeria. I mean, how do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's very sad, because me as a girl, I can't imagine being taken away from my home to some strange place with a lot of strange people. But I am hoping that the governments will be able to find the girls and bring them home safely.
And what would be your message to young girls on the African continent?
Well, my message is to always make sure you have big dreams, believe in yourself, and go out and follow your dreams. And if someone ever puts you down, don't listen to them, because if you keep on trying and trying and trying again, you'll one day become successful.
Now, away from what you do, interviewing leaders, documentaries, what do you do in your spare time?
Well, in my spare time, or relaxation time, I love to spend time with my family. All of us would either go to the park or we do some activity together. And then I also love to read books and magazines, like the Time magazine and the National Geographic magazine. And then also, once in a while, me and my family will watch a movie together. And then on the weekends, sometimes do a bit of cooking.
I mean, has it been difficult, though, for you to combine this with family life and your hobbies and your interests? What kind of pushes you?
Well, I've learned to balance it, so on my spare time, I make sure that I'm ahead of my schoolwork first, and then comes the extracurricular activities, and then once I finish those extracurricular activities, then I'll come to the relaxation time with my family.
Now let's go back to Nigeria now, and Boko Haram, the militant group there, their name means Western education is wrong. Do you condemn extreme Islamist groups like Boko Haram?
Well, I have heard of the group Boko Haram on the news, but I don't really know that much about them. And I'm more focusing on the areas of girls to have a chance to get an education, because I believe if all children, especially girls, have a chance to get an education, when they get older, they'll have more options in life, they'll have better jobs, they can start their own businesses, which will create jobs for many others, and also be able to go out and empower their countries.
But what would you say to girls who are too scared, perhaps, to go to school?
I just want to say that you should go out and accomplish your dreams, and don't be scared, because the Lord will protect you. And also, like I mentioned earlier, don't let anyone put you down from accomplishing your dreams.
And what for you is your sort of personal ambition then over the next 5-10 years?
Well, 5-10 years from now. Well, I'm not really sure where I'll be then, but I like to, at the age of 19, I like to maybe stop interviewing heads of state and high-profile leaders, so that way I can start to focus on some of my other goals. Like, I like to become an athlete, a robotics engineer, and when I get much older, I would like to become the President of the United States of America. And many people always ask me why I like to become the President of the United States as opposed to President of an African country. And the reason is, if I'm the president of an African country, like Nigeria, for example, I may be able to affect Nigeria and then 1 or 2 other African countries. But if I'm the president of the United States of America, I'll be able to affect the United States and also all the other countries in the world, including the country on the African continent. But I'll still be fighting for the rights for girls to have a chance to get an education.
And as you say, fighting for the education of girls, do you think they'll ever be educated to the same level as boys, in developing countries?
I do believe that one day it will be possible that girls will have a chance to get the same education as boys would, because girls have the same opportunity in life. They can accomplish the same things that boys would, and even accomplish greater things if they have a chance to get an education, and also if they are supported by their parents.
Well, we wish you well. Zuriel Adewale, thank you for speaking to us here on Arise.
Thank you for having me.